My name is Kevin, and I've always believed in building something that lasts. Whether it's relationships, a career, or a legacy, I've poured everything I had into the things I cared about. Growing up, I watched my parents struggle to make ends meet. My father, a quiet man with calloused hands, worked long hours at his small hardware store. My mother, ever resourceful, held the family together with her warmth and resilience. We didn't have much, but what we lacked in money, we made up for in determination. My father taught me that man's word is his bond, and my mother showed me the power of hope, even in the darkest moments. They didn't know it, but their sacrifices planted the seed of ambition in me, a relentless drive to succeed. By the time I turned 18, I decided to forge my own path. College wasn't an option. The tuition alone was more than my family earned in a year. So, I started small, just like my dad had. I took odd jobs, saved every penny, and eventually launched my first venture, a modest tech startup run out of a garage. Fast forward 2 decades, and that startup had transformed into a multimillion-dollar company with a sleek office in the heart of the city. I was proud of what I'd built, but I wasn't one to micromanage. Instead, I hired smart, ambitious people to handle the day-to-day operations, allowing me to focus on strategy and growth. That's when Amanda entered the picture. She was sharp, charismatic, and brought a fresh perspective to the company. When I promoted her to CEO, I believed she was the perfect person to steer the ship while I took a step back. For years, things ran smoothly. Amanda's leadership earned the company new accolades, and I had the freedom to explore other ventures. But something changed. Subtly at first, missed updates, decisions made without my input. But soon enough, I found myself increasingly sidelined. Then came the day Amanda made her move. I walked into the boardroom for a routine meeting, only to find her standing at the head of the table, her gaze cold and unwavering. "Kevin," she said, her voice firm, "we need to talk." Little did I know, that conversation would append everything I thought I knew about my own company and Amanda. As Amanda addressed the board, I could feel the tension in the room. Her calm, confident demeanor didn't betray an ounce of hesitation. She motioned for me to sit down, but I remained standing, bracing myself for what was coming. "Kevin," she began, "after careful consideration, we believe it's time for a change in leadership. Your contributions have been invaluable, but the company has outgrown its current structure." I raised an eyebrow, unsure if I'd heard her correctly. "A change in leadership," I echoed, my voice steady but edged with disbelief. "Yes," Amanda said, folding her hands neatly on the table. "Effective immediately, we're asking you to step away from the company." A silence fell over the room, thick and suffocating. I scanned the faces of the board members, people I had handpicked over the years. Some looked away, avoiding my gaze. Others were expressions of awkward sympathy. My pulse quickened. "Amanda, I own 90% of this company," I said firmly. "You don't have the authority to make that decision." "That's technically true," she admitted, her tone unsettlingly composed. "But as CEO, I have the authority to act in the best interest of the company. And frankly, Kevin, your involvement has been distracting." "Distracting?" I repeated, anger flaring now. "I've been hands-off for years. What exactly are you accusing me of?" Amanda leaned forward, her gaze piercing. "It's not about accusations. It's about perception. The board and I agree that your presence as a majority owner sends the wrong message to investors. They see a founder who's no longer actively engaged, and it makes them nervous." Her words hit like a slap. The company I'd built from the ground up, pouring in years of sweat and sacrifice, was now turning against me. Amanda wasn't just making a power play. She was rewriting the narrative of my role in the business. The stakes were monumental. If Amanda succeeded in pushing me out, I wouldn't just lose control of the company. I'd lose the legacy I had worked my entire life to create. But the betrayal cut even deeper. I had trusted Amanda, mentored her, and elevated her to the top position. To see her now, orchestrating this coup, was like being stabbed in the back by someone you once considered family. I took a deep breath, willing myself to stay calm. "Let me make one thing clear," I said, my voice steady but laced with warning. "This company wouldn't exist without me. You don't get to decide when I'm no longer needed." Amanda smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I understand how you feel, Kevin. Truly, I do. But business isn't personal. It's about doing what's right for the future of the company." The meeting ended in a stalemate, but I knew this was far from over. Over the next few weeks, Amanda escalated her campaign against me. She began sowing doubt among the staff, quietly implying that my involvement was hindering progress. She leaked strategic plans to key investors, framing them as her own initiatives, while subtly painting me as an obstacle. The emotional toll was immense. I found myself questioning everything: my judgment, my trust in people, even my ability to fight back. For the first time in years, I felt powerless in my own company. And yet, giving up wasn't an option. This wasn't just about the business. It was about standing up for what was right. I had to confront Amanda head-on, not just to reclaim my position, but to protect the integrity of what I'd built. But how? She had the board, the employees, and even some investors on her side. The odds were stacked against me, and every move I made seemed to play into her hands. As the pressure mounted, I realized this wasn't just a battle for control. It was a test of character. Would I crumble under the weight of betrayal, or would I rise to the challenge and prove that some legacies are worth fighting for? The weeks following Amanda's ultimatum were a blur of meetings, legal battles, and subtle manipulations. My world, which had once felt firmly under my control, now seemed like it was slipping through my fingers. I wasn't just fighting for my company. I was fighting for my identity, my legacy, and the trust I had placed in the people around me. Amanda's moves grew more calculated. She wasn't just isolating me from the board. She was turning my closest allies against me. Brad, the CFO, had been one of my earliest supporters. He and I had weathered the toughest storms in the company's early days. But now, he avoided eye contact and would quickly change the subject whenever I tried to speak with him privately. "Have you seen the new quarterly projections?" he asked, his voice too casual, as we passed each other in the hallway one day. "Amanda's done a lot to streamline the budget. We're going to hit new highs this year." I could feel the tension in his voice, like he was trying to convince himself as much as me. "Brad," I said, stopping him. "We need to talk. You've been avoiding me. What's really going on here?" His eyes darted nervously around, and he leaned in, lowering his voice. "Kevin, I know you're upset, but Amanda has a vision. You know how things have been. Some of the changes she's pushing for make sense." I took a step back, the words hitting harder than I expected. Brad wasn't just distancing himself. He was rationalizing Amanda's actions, almost as though he believed I was the one out of touch. It was a painful realization that I was losing people I once considered friends. But it wasn't just Brad. I walked into the office one morning to find a large section of the staff gathered in the break room, all talking in hushed tones. I recognized the signs. Rumors were swirling. The once vibrant energy in the office had shifted to something darker, more divided. "Kevin, can we talk?" It was Sarah, one of the senior project managers, who had been with the company since the early days. Her face was pale, and she looked conflicted. "Of course," I said, gesturing toward my office. We sat down, and for a moment, there was silence between us, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. "I don't know how to say this," Sarah began, her voice shaky. "But Amanda has been making things difficult for people who support you." I leaned forward, a surge of hope rising. "What do you mean?" She's been threatening to cut funding for departments if certain people don't fall in line. Sarah continued, her eyes darting around nervously. There's talk of layoffs if the board doesn't back her. A chill ran down my spine. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about the people I had brought into the company, the ones who had helped it grow. Amanda wasn't just isolating me, she was destabilizing everything. Sarah, I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. You need to stand your ground. We can't let her tear this place apart. I'm trying, Kevin, she whispered. But she's ruthless. The pressure is mounting, and people are scared. I don't want to lose my job. I watched her leave, my heart heavy. I had always prided myself on creating a workplace where loyalty and trust meant something. Now those very qualities were being weaponized against me, and the foundation I had built was crumbling under the weight of Amanda's ambition. I couldn't afford to sit back and let this happen. But each move I made seemed to give Amanda more leverage. I attempted to reach out to investors, hoping to regain some ground. But when I met with Gerald, one of the largest shareholders, he was polite but distant. Kevin, I think you're misunderstanding the situation, Gerald said, his tone all business. Amanda has a clear vision for the company's future. She's been running things smoothly, and that's what we need right now. Your involvement has become more of a distraction than an asset. The words stung, and I could feel my grip on reality slipping. I was being painted as the villain in my own story. The company I had built with blood, sweat, and tears was being portrayed as a sinking ship with me at the helm. Amanda had successfully turned the narrative, and no one seemed willing to listen to the truth. Then came the breaking point. A few days after my meeting with Gerald, I received an email from Amanda. It was brief, curt, and to the point. I've scheduled a board meeting for tomorrow. The motion to remove you as majority shareholder will be on the agenda. I suggest you prepare for the inevitable. It's time to move on. I sat in my office, staring at the screen, feeling the weight of those words press down on me. This wasn't just a corporate power struggle anymore. It was a personal attack. Amanda was not only trying to seize control of the company, she was trying to erase my very existence from the company's history. I had to act. Fast. But with every passing hour, the walls closed in tighter. The board was already on Amanda's side, and the employees, those few who had stood by me, were scattered, uncertain. My options were dwindling. It was clear that this wasn't just a fight for the company. It was a fight for my dignity, my identity, and everything I had built. If I didn't find a way to turn the tide, I would lose it all. And not just the company, but my place in this world. The day of the board meeting arrived like a storm on the horizon, ominous and inescapable. I walked into the conference room, my heart pounding in my chest. Every step felt heavier, every breath shallower. The once familiar space, where I had made countless decisions with ease, now felt like an alien battlefield. The air was thick with tension as I took my seat at the long table, facing the very people I had trusted to help steer this company. Amanda was already seated at the head of the table, her expression cool and detached. She barely acknowledged me as I entered, which only fueled the fire burning in my gut. The entire board was present, and the murmurs died down as the meeting began. "Let's get started," Amanda said, her voice calm and assertive. "As per the agenda, we're here to vote on the motion to formally remove Kevin as majority shareholder." The words hit like a punch to the stomach, but I fought to keep my composure. I had prepared for this, but nothing could truly ready me for the finality of it. This wasn't just a business decision. It was the culmination of everything Amanda had done to undermine me. It was personal. I looked around the room, my gaze lingering on each board member's face. Brad was there, sitting with his arms crossed, his eyes avoiding mine. Sarah, the senior manager who had once trusted me, sat a few seats down, her expression conflicted. The betrayal was written on their faces, but it wasn't enough to sway the vote. Amanda had won them over, some with promises of future gain, others with the fear of losing their jobs. The vote was about to begin, and I had one last chance to make my case. Before we proceed, I said, my voice cutting through the tension like a knife, I need to remind you all of something. I built this company. I took every risk, sacrificed everything for it. This isn't just a business to me. It's my legacy. I am the reason any of you are sitting here today. Without me, there is no company. There is no future. There was a brief silence as my words hung in the air. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on me, but I knew it wasn't enough. Amanda had already controlled the narrative, turned the room against me, and now I was struggling to hold onto the very foundation I had built. Amanda stood, her chair scraping against the floor. Kevin, she said, her voice dripping with a false sympathy, I understand how you feel, but this isn't about you. It's about the company's future. You've been a great founder, but you've lost touch with the needs of the business. I clenched my fists, the anger rising like a tidal wave. You're wrong, Amanda. You're wrong about everything. You think this is just about business, but you've forgotten everything that made this company what it is. You've forgotten the heart of it. Amanda's eyes narrowed, a thin smile tugging at her lips. You don't get it, Kevin. You were always the heart of this company. But a heart can only keep beating for so long without the rest of the body. It's time to move on. The room fell silent as the vote was called. Each board member cast their vote with the cold efficiency of someone who had already made up their mind. My stomach churned as I watched them. Each vote felt like a dagger, each passing moment another step closer to losing everything. And then it happened. Brad, the CFO, the man I had trusted more than anyone, cast his vote against me. The final blow. Kevin, Brad said softly, I'm sorry. I felt the air leave my lungs. This wasn't just a betrayal of the company. It was a betrayal of everything I had ever believed in. My trust, my loyalty, had been shattered in a single moment. I wanted to scream. I wanted to fight back with everything I had left. But deep down, I knew I couldn't. I couldn't change the outcome of this meeting, no matter how hard I tried. The vote was done. Amanda had won. But as the board members left the room, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let her take everything from me. I still held 90% of the company. I still had power. And if Amanda thought she could erase me from the company's history, she was about to learn just how wrong she was. I walked out of the room, my mind racing, my heart still pounding in my chest. I wasn't done yet. I wasn't going to let her take my legacy, my life's work, without a fight. The days following the board meeting were a blur of legal proceedings and tense negotiations. The moment the vote had been cast, I knew Amanda had effectively taken control. The company was hers, at least on paper. But in my heart, I knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of something bigger. I spent the first few days reeling. The sting of betrayal was still raw, and every time I saw the company's logo on a building or an email, it felt like a gut punch. It was as if I had lost a part of myself. But slowly, something started to shift within me. I had built this company from the ground up with my blood, sweat, and tears. That didn't just disappear because of a boardroom vote. I was still the majority shareholder. I was still Kevin, the founder, the driving force behind everything that had made this company successful. So, I began to plan. I reached out to the remaining allies I had left, people who still believed in what we had built together. There were a few employees who hadn't been swayed by Amanda's promises and threats, and I found strength in their loyalty. I began to gather support, talking to key investors who had remained neutral in the vote, showing them the truth. Amanda was running the company with ambition. Yes, but at the expense of its integrity. The battle wasn't going to be easy. Amanda had resources, a strong PR team, and an iron grip on the board. But I had something she didn't: history. I had been here from the start. I knew the company's soul, and I knew how to reignite the fire that had once made it great. Weeks later, I found myself back in the boardroom, only this time, I wasn't fighting to keep my seat at the table. I was fighting for the company's soul. With the support of a few key investors who had been swayed by my persistence, I called for a vote of no confidence in Amanda. It was a long shot, but I was done playing defense. The meeting was tense. The board members, now visibly divided, exchanged looks and whispered amongst themselves. Amanda's confident facade had begun to crack. She had underestimated me, thinking that the company's foundation would crumble without her. What she hadn't realized was that she wasn't the heart of the company. I was. The vote passed. Amanda was out. The room erupted into murmurs as I sat back, a sense of vindication washing over me. But it wasn't the sweet taste of revenge that I craved. It was the knowledge that I had protected what I had worked so hard to build. The company had been mine long before Amanda took the CEO position, and it would remain mine. The aftermath of the vote wasn't without its challenges. There were lawsuits, media scrutiny, and an overwhelming amount of stress. But through it all, I felt a new sense of clarity. I had been humbled by this experience. For so long, I had defined myself by the success of the company, by my role as its founder. But the truth was, I had become too complacent. I had trusted too easily and let others dictate the direction of something I had worked so hard to create. The lesson was hard, but it was necessary. Power is not something that can be given away lightly, and trust should be earned, not assumed. I had learned that leadership isn't just about being at the top. It's about remaining grounded, being present, and understanding the true nature of those around you. Amanda, for all her brilliance, had forgotten that. She had believed that her vision could replace the heart of the company, but I had reminded everyone that the heart can't be replaced. It can only be nurtured. In the months that followed, I took a more active role in the company again. I reconnected with the employees, rebuilding the culture that had made the company great in the first place. I focused on innovation, on nurturing the next generation of leaders, and on rebuilding the trust that had been fractured by Amanda's betrayal. The company didn't just survive, it thrived. But more importantly, so did I. I had come face to face with my greatest challenge, and I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. Sometimes, the hardest lessons are the ones that shape us the most. I had lost control of everything I held dear, but in doing so, I had gained a deeper understanding of what truly mattered. The company wasn't just about profits or prestige. It was about the people, the culture, and the shared belief that together, we could achieve something extraordinary. And in the end, that was what had made all the difference.